Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Grab a drink, maybe not wine, and hear me out. I never imagined the quiet clink of cutlery at a dinner party would be the soundtrack to the collapse of my marriage. But it was. And if you think this story is going where you expect, trust me, it's not. She slapped my hand away over the breadbasket. That's how it started. We were at this ridiculously overdone rooftop dinner. 5 couples, artisan flatbreads, and a candle that kept flickering like it wanted to escape the tension. I reached for her hand, not because I was being romantic, but because I thought maybe, just maybe, we could pretend, for one night, that we still liked each other. And she slapped it away. Not playfully, not in jest. Slapped away. Then she said, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, "Don't touch me. You look ridiculous." I blinked. Everyone else froze. For a moment, it was just me, her, and a napkin I suddenly hated holding. Then came the awkward fake coughs, the eyes pretending not to notice, the one guy who took a slow sip of his drink like it might turn him invisible. I didn't even think. I stood up, pushed the chair back and said, "You're not worth this." And I left. I left before dessert. I left before the explanation. I left behind a woman I used to think would never humiliate me in public. But that's the thing with betrayal, it doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up, dressed in silk, holding a wine glass. What I didn't know then was that leaving that dinner wouldn't be the most shocking part. The worst came later, when I got home, and the truth finally stopped hiding. When I say everything changed, I don't mean emotionally. I mean physically. My house looked different. My dog was missing, and there was a USB drive on the counter with my name written on a yellow sticky note. This wasn't just a relationship falling apart. It was a setup, and I walked right into it. When I picked up the USB, I didn't even realize my hands were shaking. The sticky note on it didn't say much, just my name in her handwriting, looped and perfect. I stared at it for a full minute before even moving. No text message, no voice note, no warning. Just this thing, sitting on our marble counter like a loaded weapon. I wish I could say I was strong, that I calmly plugged it into my laptop and braced myself like a man. But no, I stood there in the kitchen, blinking at it, hoping, literally hoping, it was some kind of romantic gesture. A slideshow, a surprise anniversary video, something dumb, something I could hate and love at the same time, something that didn't mean what my gut was already screaming. I plugged it in. It autoplayed. No folder to open. Just one file titled, "Before You Hate Me, Watch This." And I did. What I saw was, it was her, Callie, in our house, in my house, sitting on our couch, the one we argued over buying because I wanted brown leather and she wanted storm cloud gray. She looked directly at the camera like she was filming a YouTube apology video. And her first words weren't, "I'm sorry." No, they were, "I need you to see this before you react. Please." Then she stood up and walked off frame. And the screen cut to what looked like security footage. Our living room from an upper angle, not a phone, not her laptop, a real camera. I never installed anything like that. I never knew one existed. The footage played on. A timestamp in the corner. 3 weeks ago, I watched her let another man into the house. Tall, well-dressed. He walked in like he belonged. She smiled at him. That smile. The one I hadn't seen in months. The one she used to give me when I made her laugh over dumb cereal commercials. They kissed. In my living room. On my couch. In our house. She laughed like it was a joke. Like my life wasn't burning on screen in front of me. They sat down, wine glasses in hand. She pulled them from the same cabinet where we kept our wedding china. He leaned in and whispered something that made her roll her eyes and giggle. That was the moment I stopped the video. I couldn't keep watching. Couldn't. I ripped the USB out of the laptop like it had poisoned me. For a second, I genuinely thought I was going to throw up. My legs gave out and I collapsed to the kitchen floor, still holding the stupid drive like it owed me answers. You know what the worst part is? She left it there. Like a gift. Like a favor. She wanted me to see it. I don't know if she felt guilty, or if she thought it was better to show me than have me find out some other way. but it felt cold, calculated, like she was controlling how I'd react, controlling the damage. And it worked. I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I didn't smash things. I just sat there for 2 hours in the same spot on the kitchen tiles, watching the sun come up through the blinds, realizing that the woman I married, the woman I defended, adored, built a life around, had planned my heartbreak like a freaking PowerPoint presentation. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't shower. I didn't eat. I just stared at the laptop. I opened the video again, watched it to the end this time. There were more clips, more visits, same man, different nights. It wasn't an affair. It was a second life. And I was just background noise in hers. You don't realize how loud a house can get until it's empty. Every creak in the floorboard, every drip from the kitchen faucet, every gust of wind against the window suddenly felt like it was trying to say something. I spent that entire day walking in circles. From the kitchen to the living room to the guest room I never bothered to clean, and back again, like I was hoping I'd find some version of her hiding behind the curtains. Maybe one that could explain everything without making me feel like a fool. She was gone, by the way. I didn't even say that in the last part. But yeah, she didn't come home after that dinner. I got a text. Just 3 words. Stay somewhere else. I didn't. I stayed right there. Like a dog that didn't know it had been kicked out. I walked into the bedroom around midnight and the bed was still made. Perfect. Untouched. No makeup stain on the pillow. No sweater tossed over the chair. Just a sterile, uncomfortable, too clean bed that felt like a hotel room you overpaid for. She wasn't planning to come back that night. Maybe not at all. That's when I started noticing all the things that were missing. Her passport folder. Gone. The green overnight bag with the ripped handle she always claimed she hated but never threw out. Gone. One of our suitcases. The one she said was hers during our last passive-aggressive packing argument in June. Also gone. So this wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't emotional. This was a plan. And you want to hear something pathetic? I still checked the bathroom drawers hoping she left her toothbrush behind. Like that would have meant something. Like that would have been proof that she still considered this home. There's this thing people say when they talk about betrayal, they say it's like being stabbed in the back. But that's too dramatic. Too violent. This wasn't a stab. This was a slow turn of a doorknob. A quiet exit. A soft click of betrayal. And I didn't even chase after her. I just stood in the house she evacuated and tried to breathe normally. At around 3:17 a.m., I opened her laptop. I didn't want to. I swear I didn't. But it was just there, glowing softly on the desk, like a cursed artifact whispering to me. She never logged out of anything. That was her mistake. There were emails. Not romantic ones. Not even explicit. Worse, they were logistics, dates, timelines, travel plans, discussions with her sister about when to tell him, a folder titled Transition with rental agreements for a new apartment, her name, her maiden name on a leasing application. She was already gone long before she ever left. There were instructions for canceling the joint gym membership, notes about who keeps what. She even divided up the plants. The plants? Reddit. I didn't even know she was unhappy enough to make a plan like that. She didn't argue with me. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just checked out. Like I was a subscription she'd forgotten to cancel years ago, and now she was finally getting around to it. You'd think I would have broken something. Screamed. Called her. Left 100 voicemails. But all I did was shut the laptop, unplug it, and put it under the bed. Because if I didn't see it, maybe it wouldn't be real. Maybe I could pretend that I imagined it all. That the USB, the man, the missing bag, the emails, were just nightmares stitched together by my own insecurity. The denial phase of betrayal is weird. It doesn't make you blind. It just makes you hope, even when hope feels insulting. The call came at 6:42 p.m. I remember the time exactly because I was sitting on the edge of the bathtub staring at the way the condensation traced patterns across the mirror. I hadn't showered in 2 days, and I could feel the grime building on my skin like guilt I hadn't earned. When the phone rang, I nearly dropped it. Her name lit up the screen like it was mocking me. Callie wife. I hadn't changed the contact name. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I didn't have the right yet. Or maybe I was still hoping the label would go back to meaning something. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. I didn't say hello. I didn't say anything at all. Just waited. She exhaled, and the line felt electric. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Did you watch it? That was her opening line. Not how are you? Not can we talk? Not even I'm sorry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg. But all I managed was a brittle, yeah. She went quiet for a second. Then she said something that still lodged somewhere in my spine. I didn't want you to find out like that, but I knew you would. What does that even mean? I asked her that. I asked her why. Why didn't she just talk to me? Why not tell me when it started to unravel? When did I stop being her person? When did I become a burden she had to sneak around? She said something about emotional suffocation. Said I didn't see her anymore. That I made her feel like she was vanishing inside the marriage. That I didn't ask questions anymore. Didn't listen like I used to. I sat there listening to her list all the ways I failed, and it felt like she was delivering a eulogy, like I had already died in her world, and she was just doing the polite thing by explaining my flaws posthumously. I told her I would have tried. I would have fought. Could have changed. She replied, without hesitation, that's the thing, Emory. I didn't want you to. That one stung. Because it wasn't just rejection, it was clarity. She didn't want me back. She didn't even want me reimagined. She wanted out and she wanted it clean. I asked about the guy, the man from the footage. She said his name was Royce. I couldn't even picture a guy named Royce without imagining someone who wears cologne to the gym. She told me they'd met at her art gallery's relaunch last winter. That it started innocently. Conversations, shared playlists, long talks about things she used to love. I think the worst thing she said was this. He reminded me of who I was before us. Like being with me had somehow erased her identity. Like I'd buried her under 10 years of soft routines and loyalty and boring little Tuesday dinners. She told me she wasn't sorry for how she felt. Only sorry for how I found out. That maybe if I had noticed sooner, it wouldn't have had to go this way. And you know what I did? I apologized. I actually apologized. I told her I was sorry for not seeing the signs, for making her feel alone, for being too focused on work, for not keeping things exciting. I poured out a decade of guilt into her silence, hoping one of my words might hit some hidden switch in her and make her remember what we once had. But she just said, I think it's best we don't talk for a while. And then she hung up. No goodbye, no soft sigh. Just the end of the call and the reflection of a tired man in a foggy bathroom mirror, whispering I'm sorry to nobody at all. I sat there for what felt like an hour, the phone still in my hand, wondering how I'd gotten here. How someone who used to trace circles on my back every night was now drawing exit routes in rental agreements. I didn't think I had anything left to lose. Not after hearing her voice, calm and cold, explaining why I'd become replaceable. I was certain I'd hit bottom, that I'd already seen the worst of it. But betrayal, I've learned, is a bottomless pit. Just when you think you've landed, it gives way again, and you keep falling. It happened 2 days after the call. I was still in the house, barely functioning. I'd stopped pretending I was going to go back to work. My boss had sent one checking-in email, which I ignored, and I guess that was enough to make them leave me alone. My fridge was empty except for pickles and expired yogurt. My phone had been silent for 48 hours straight. And then it buzzed. I jumped like it was a fire alarm. It was a number I didn't recognize. No name. Just a single text. Check the storage unit on Caraway. Ask her about Unit 118. No greeting. No signature. No explanation. For a second I thought it was spam. One of those phishing scams where you show up and they steal your kidneys or something. But then I remembered we did have a storage unit on Caraway. We rented it 5 years ago when we moved out of our old apartment. I hadn't thought about it in years. I stared at the message, reread it 10 times. Unit 118. What could she possibly have hidden there? And more importantly, who sent this? It wasn't her. Callie had no reason to drop hints now. She'd made it clear she wanted distance. She hadn't contacted me again since the call. No updates. No check-ins. Nothing. which meant someone else knew something. Someone was watching. Someone was choosing to feed me breadcrumbs while I sat in the ruins of my life eating dry cereal out of the box like a toddler with abandonment issues. I didn't text back, just grabbed my keys and drove. The Caraway facility was a dull beige fortress with flickering fluorescent lights and a lady at the front desk who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. I asked about Unit 118, gave her our old rental code, and she handed me a key with a casual shrug, like I wasn't unlocking Pandora's box. The hallway smelled like mildew and cardboard. I found the unit. The padlock came off with a soft click. I opened the door. Inside were boxes. Not many, maybe 6. They were neatly labeled. Callie's handwriting, unmistakable. Winter clothes, art supplies, decor. But one box, shoved toward the back, had no label. I opened it, and my stomach flipped. It was full of photos. Printed photos, not digital. Hundreds of them. Some I recognized, vacations we'd taken, birthdays, old Polaroids from our first apartment. But then, mixed in between were pictures of her and him. Her and Royce. And they weren't taken by accident. These weren't selfies or phone shots. These were staged, framed, professional. There were at least 20 glossy, high-res pictures of the two of them in a cabin I'd never seen. Wrapped around each other in sweaters, laughing at a fire pit. One of her holding his hand and resting her head on his shoulder. These weren't secret flings. They were memories. Real ones. Moments she planned. One photo had a date printed on the back, 6 months ago. During that time, she told me she was at a silent meditation retreat. No phones allowed. No contact. I even packed her bag for her that week. I kissed her goodbye at the airport. And now I was holding proof that she was off playing house with someone else while I sat at home baking banana bread like a fool. But the worst part, the part that made my skin go cold, was tucked beneath the last photo. A handwritten letter, folded, addressed to her sister. I read it, every word. And what it said shattered me in a way even her confession hadn't. Because this wasn't just betrayal. It was a plan. And she wasn't doing it alone. I held that folded letter like it was radioactive. I didn't even open it at first. Just stared at the ink scrawled across the front. For Liv, burn after reading. She underlined it. Twice. Callie always had a flair for dramatics. But I never thought she meant it literally. It felt like I was holding something sacred and poisoned at the same time. Something I was never supposed to see, never supposed to touch. But I couldn't stop myself. My hands were trembling as I unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakable. Loopy, dramatic, too many exclamation points where none belonged. But the tone? It was surgical. This wasn't the voice of a woman second-guessing herself. It was the voice of someone building something brick by brick. In secret, the letter began like a monologue. Liv, I need you to understand that I'm not running away. I'm just finally choosing myself. Emory doesn't see it, and maybe he never will, but he's not the man I need anymore. He hasn't been for a long time. My stomach turned. I kept reading. He's predictable, and I know that sounds cruel, but it's the truth. Every morning it's the same breakfast, the same awkward attempts at jokes, the same emotional dead weight I've carried for years. I smile, I nod, I fold his stupid socks, and I feel like I'm dying in slow motion. There was no remorse in her words, just fatigue, as if I had become a burden she'd tolerated longer than necessary. But what came next hit harder than any insult. Royce gets it. He sees me. He asks me questions and actually waits for the answers. He makes me feel like I'm not fading. I know it's fast, but he wants me to move in full-time by November. We've talked about the whole thing, even the financial side. I froze. I know you're worried about Emory, and I get it. He's not a bad person. He just never evolved. And I can't let his stagnation be my prison anymore. I wanted to rip the paper right there, tear it in half, burn it like she asked. But something in me whispered, keep reading. And then came the paragraph that changed everything. Here's the plan. I've drafted the separation timeline. We'll use the yoga retreat story as a soft launch, then slowly phase me out of the house. By the time he realizes, he'll already be halfway adjusted. The USB video is step 2. I just need him to see it before Royce and I make anything public. That way he doesn't try to fight it legally or emotionally. He'll retreat. He always does. I stopped breathing. She knew. She counted on me falling apart. She counted on me disappearing into myself like I always had. She weaponized my passiveness, my soft edges, my quiet love, my fear of confrontation, and she turned it into strategy. The letter continued lists, bullet points, even reminders to cancel certain shared subscriptions. And one final note, scribbled almost casually near the bottom. If he finds the photos, fine, but keep the lawyer stuff hidden until after New Year's. It'll be easier once the holidays pass. I had to sit down, right there, on the cold concrete floor of a storage unit, surrounded by old blankets and picture frames and the dying smell of dust and betrayal. I sat with that letter in my lap and understood something I hadn't wanted to admit for weeks. I wasn't part of a failed love story. I was collateral damage in a carefully designed exit plan. It wasn't just about her falling out of love. It was about her engineering the breakup in a way that made me too weak to stop it. And suddenly, all the small things made sense. The late-night walks, the compliments that stopped, the distant look in her eyes during dinner, the pre-packed lies she dropped gently into my hands, trusting I'd never unwrap them. But I had. I'd unwrapped the whole thing. And now I couldn't pretend anymore. I wasn't just heartbroken. I'd been played. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the guest bed, clutching that letter like it was the last solid thing in a world made of smoke. My legs ached from sitting still too long. My eyes were red and raw, but I didn't cry. Not this time. I think I dried up somewhere between lines 6 and 7 of that letter, between Royce gets it and he'll retreat, he always does. At 9:13 a.m. I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Liv, Callie's sister. She asked if I was okay. No punctuation, no emoji, just 2 words that felt like they came with strings attached. I didn't respond. Not immediately. I stared at the screen for a while, trying to decide if I wanted to answer, or block her, or send a screenshot of the letter she clearly didn't burn after reading. Instead, I called her. She answered on the second ring, her voice tight and clipped like she'd been bracing for it. Emory. I didn't let her finish. I told her I found the letter. Her voice cracked, just slightly. That was all I needed to know. You helped her, I said. Silence. You helped her plan it? I repeated, slower this time, letting the weight of it settle into the air between us like smoke from something still burning. She didn't deny it. She didn't rush to explain. Instead, she whispered, I thought you'd already figured that out. That was the part that really shattered me. The casualness of it. Like betrayal had become routine. Like this was just something people did to each other now. Like I should have expected it. She went on to say she didn't mean to hurt me, but that she supported Callie making choices for her future. That she stood by her sister. That she thought I would have seen the writing on the wall months ago. I asked her if she ever once thought about what this would do to me. If she ever looked at me. At the guy who helped her move into her first college dorm, who picked her up from a failed blind date at 1 a.m. in the rain and thought, maybe I shouldn't be part of this. She didn't answer. Then, she said something that still makes my jaw clench. You made it too easy, Emory. You were already disappearing. We just gave you a little push. A push, like I was some broken furniture on a cliff's edge. Like I needed help collapsing. I don't remember hanging up. I just remember staring at my phone for a long time, wondering how many other people had watched me rot from the inside out and decided it was convenient. That's when I opened the photos again. The ones from the box. And this time, I noticed something I'd missed before. A reflection in the glass door behind Callie and Royce in one of the cabin pictures. A woman's silhouette. Short. Holding a phone. Liv. She wasn't just in on it. She was there. She was the one taking the photos. They were documenting it. Like it was some twisted art project. Like my life falling apart was something they wanted to frame and keep. And in that moment, it hit me. This wasn't about love. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. This was about control. about manipulation, about writing me out of my own story and replacing me with a version of myself that would never fight back. But I was done being quiet, done being the shadow, done being the man who retreats. Because in all the letters, the videos, the carefully planned exit strategies, there was one thing they never accounted for: what happens when the quiet one stays standing. I didn't burn the letter. I didn't throw the USB into a river. I didn't smash her wine glasses or leave some cinematic final voicemail that would echo through the halls of karma. I just packed a bag. It was late. The street outside buzzed with distant life, but the house was silent. No footsteps, no perfume lingering in the hallways, no illusions left to cling to. I stood in the bedroom, our bedroom, one last time. The bed was still perfectly made. It hadn't been touched since the night I walked out of that rooftop dinner humiliated and heartbroken. And now it just looked like what it always was. A stage set for a story that had already ended long before the final scene. I didn't take much. A few clothes, my journals, a photo of my parents, my old headphones. I left everything else. Even the coffee mug she gave me that said, "World's Sleepiest Husband." It used to be funny. Now it just felt like foreshadowing. I left the key on the kitchen counter. I didn't write a note. I didn't need to, because walking out quietly, calmly, without rage, without begging, without breaking, that was my message. That was me choosing myself for the first time in years. The next morning, I moved into a small sublet about 20 minutes away. It's nothing special. The floor creaks, and the bathroom door doesn't close all the way unless you pull it twice. But it's mine. It's quiet in a way that doesn't feel empty. And for once, I don't feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I started cooking again. Just for me. Things I actually like. I got a dog. Yeah, a rescue mutt named Percy who snores like a 60-year-old man but follows me from room to room like I matter. I've even started writing again. Not for work. For myself. I write things that don't apologize for being soft or broken. I write like I mean it. And Callie? I don't know where she is anymore. And for the first time, I don't need to know. Because I'm not angry anymore. I'm not desperate. I'm just free. If you made it this far, thank you. Seriously. Not just for listening, but for holding space for people like me. People who fall apart slowly in silence and somehow still find the courage to put themselves back together without making a sound. This has been my story. And maybe it's not unique or dramatic or full of fireworks, but it's mine. And I'm taking it with me wherever I go next. Now it's your turn. Have you ever seen something, a letter, a photo, a single sentence, that completely shifted how you saw someone? Drop your story in the comments. Share a moment from your history. Let's build a space where people feel less alone in the quietest heartbreaks. And if you like this story, consider subscribing to Reddit Confessions, where real voices echo louder than fiction. Until next time, be kind to yourself. You're worth it.